There's a man you've probably never heard of who killed more people than Hitler and Stalin combined. Not in battle, not through war, through starvation, through forced labor, through deliberate systematic terror, applied to an entire nation he personally owned like a private estate. His name has been almost completely scrubbed from Western history books. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why and who made sure of it. This is the story of Leopold II of Belgium, the man who built a genocide and died a hero. And it starts, like all great atrocities, with a man who believed he was doing the world a favor. The year is 1835. Europe is carving the world into pieces. The British have India. France has Algeria. The Portuguese have been in Africa for centuries. And little Belgium, a country that had only existed for 5 years, has nothing. Leopold was born into this world, second son of the Belgian king, destined to inherit a throne that ruled over a country the size of a postage stamp on a continent full of empires. He grew up obsessed, not with power exactly, with scale, with the idea that a man, or a nation, was only as great as the territory it commanded. He watched the British, he watched the Dutch, he watched what colonies were doing for their economies, and he wanted that, desperately. He spent 20 years, trying to acquire a colony. He tried to buy the Philippines from Spain. He looked at Argentina. He investigated Borneo. Nobody took him seriously. He was the king of a small, neutral country. What was he going to do with a colony? But here's what everyone missed about Leopold II. He wasn't thinking like a king. He was thinking like a corporation. And corporations find a way. This is where the story gets interesting and disturbing. Because Leopold II wasn't stupid. He wasn't chaotic or impulsive. He didn't scream at people. He didn't have fits of rage. He was methodical, patient, charming when he needed to be. Historians who've studied his private correspondence describe a man of extraordinary self-control, someone who could hold a long-term plan in his mind across decades, adjusting, recalibrating, never losing sight of the objective. The objective was always the same: acquire territory, extract maximum value, show the world nothing. The mechanism he invented to do this was one of the most cynical constructions in political history. In 1876, Leopold hosted an international conference in Brussels. He invited explorers, geographers, scientists. He framed the whole thing as a humanitarian mission, bringing Christianity and civilization to the people of Central Africa. He called it the International Association for the Exploration and Civilization of Central Africa. And the world applauded. The New York Times praised him. The British press praised him. Even some African tribal leaders initially trusted him, because the alternative was the Portuguese or the Arabs, who were openly running the slave trade. Leopold positioned himself as the solution to slavery, while building a system that was functionally identical to it. By 1885, at the Berlin Conference, where European powers literally divided Africa between themselves on a map, Leopold walked away with personal ownership of a territory 76 times the size of Belgium. Not Belgian territory, his, personally. He called it the Congo Free State. And then, the mask came off. The rubber boom of the 1890s changed everything. Rubber was worth more than gold, and the Congo Basin was full of wild rubber vines. Leopold needed to harvest it, fast, and he had no intention of paying anyone to do it. The system he built operated like this. Every Congolese village was assigned a rubber quota, a certain amount of rubber delivered per person per month. Miss the quota, and soldiers came. The soldiers, many of them Congolese themselves forced into service, were given one rule: every bullet fired must be accounted for. And the way you accounted for a bullet was to bring back a human hand. This wasn't metaphor. This wasn't an isolated incident. Baskets of hands were collected, cataloged, submitted as proof of discipline. Hands of men, hands of women, hands of children. Missionaries who witnessed this wrote letters home. E.D. Morel, a British shipping clerk, noticed that ships going to the Congo were loaded with weapons and ammunition, but ships coming back carried only rubber and ivory. No trade goods, no wages. He started asking questions. The answers broke him. And this is the moment I need you to sit with. Because the hands weren't even the worst part. The worst part was the hostage system. Women and children of villages were held captive, sometimes in cages, until the men returned with their rubber quota. Those who refused didn't come back. Write in the comments, had you heard of any of this before today? Historians estimate that between 1885 and 1908, the population of the Congo Basin fell by approximately 10 million people. That figure comes from census comparisons done by Belgian officials themselves, not by Leopold's enemies. Some estimates go higher. Adam Hochschild, whose 1998 book King Leopold's Ghost is the definitive account, puts it between 8 and 10 million. Other scholars have argued the number could reach 13 million when you account for famine, disease, and the collapse of communities under the terror. For context, the Holocaust killed approximately 6 million Jewish people and around 11 million total. The Stalinist purges and famine killed between 6 and 20 million, depending on the estimate. Leopold's Congo sits comfortably in that range. The difference, and this is critical, is that Leopold did this while being celebrated in his lifetime as a philanthropist, while receiving the Order of Christ from Portugal, while being praised by the American president. He never set foot in the Congo, not once. The man who personally owned a country he was destroying never looked at it with his own eyes. He only ever saw the rubber revenues on paper, and they made him, at certain points, the richest man in Europe. He spent the money on palaces, on gardens, on a young mistress he adored. He built monuments to himself that still stand in Brussels today. And when the pressure finally became too great, when the international reform movement forced the Belgian government to take the Congo away from him in 1908, he reportedly said, "They have no right to take it from me. I built it myself. So why don't you know this story?" It's not an accident. When Belgium took control of the Congo in 1908, one of Leopold's conditions was that his personal archive, tens of thousands of documents, be destroyed. He oversaw it himself. Police reports, administrative records, the paper trail of an entire system of terror, burned. The photographs survived. The missionary reports survived. Eyewitness testimony survived. But the central administrative record of exactly what happened and who ordered what, gone. And then something subtler happened. The Belgian state, which inherited both the colony and the guilt, had every incentive to minimize what had occurred under Leopold. Colonial education in Europe spent the next 70 years framing the Belgian Congo as a rough but ultimately civilizing enterprise. The Leopold era was treated as an embarrassing footnote. A few bad years before Belgium stepped in and fixed things. Western academic history, until relatively recently, largely reflected the records available, which were the records that survived the burning. It took an activist named E.D. Morel, a photojournalist named Alice Seeley Harris, and a writer named Adam Hochschild more than a century to piece the full story back together. Here is the thing that should stay with you after this video. The systems that made Leopold possible, the philanthropy as cover, the bureaucratic distance between the decision maker and the atrocity, the deliberate destruction of records. These aren't unique to Leopold. They're a template, And understanding how that template works is exactly why history like this matters. Not to feel bad about the past, but to recognize the pattern when it appears again. If you want to go deeper, I'll leave links to King Leopold's ghost and the National Security Archive's Congo records in the description. Both changed how I think about what history actually is. I'll see you in the next one.